Would you eat chicken that had been put in a jar, raw, sealed, and then left for 3 years? We call it ugly chicken.
Let me show you how I plan to keep these farm fresh eggs right here shelf stable for the next 2 years. The way I'm going to do that is a system called water glass.
Shelf-stable meat. What if I told you that this meat could sit on my shelf for up to 30 years and still be safe to eat?
The goal is to get things on the shelf. So I went to Costco and I got some of their soups to freeze dry so I could get them on the shelf and have them for emergency.
Let's freeze dry some cabbage to make it shelf stable for up to 25 years.
I have been seeing a lot of videos of people canning chicken, canning fruit, dry freezing vegetables, dry freezing soups, and a lot of preserving food. And this food that they're preserving, they claim it will last anywhere from 3 to like 25 years. And the process was amazing to me. And actually, they are not doing it because they think the world is about to end. No, they are doing it because they see the state of economy that we are in. They see how expensive groceries are becoming. They see how expensive food are getting. So they are preserving the food to last longer on the shelf. So that way, when something is to happen, or when we have like a food scarcity or something, emergency or something, they have a little bit of food to last them longer. I'm just going to show you a few videos of the process of how they go about canning this food. So that way, you can learn a thing or
Would
two.
you eat chicken that had been put in a jar, raw, sealed, and then left for 3 years? We call it ugly chicken because it doesn't look pretty, but it is edible and tastes good. And it doesn't require refrigeration or any space in the freezer. You'll need a pressure canner to preserve meat. It uses the power of steam to bring the contents to 240 degrees with 10 to 15 pounds of pressure for a certain amount of time. This cooks, preserves, and seals the jar hermetically so no air or bacteria can spoil the food. To pressure can chicken legs, 4 to 5 legs in each jar, alternating directions. Add a teaspoon salt to every jar, a half teaspoon of pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder, whatever spices you like. Clean the rims of your jars with water or vinegar to make sure the rubber seal can make clean contact with the glass. Then add your lids fingertip tight and carefully put them in your pressure canner. Add 3-quart jars of water to the bottom of your canner. You only need 2 to 3 inches worth of water, which is unlike water bathing. After you've added your water, your lid and seal, turn on your heat, and when you start to see a steady stream of steam coming out of the vent, set your timer for 8 to 10 minutes so the whole thing fills with steam. Then put on your weight to the proper pounds for your elevation. You wait again until you begin to hear it jiggle. When it reaches pressure, it will sound like this. Then set your timer for 75 minutes. The time for canning varies with what you are canning. Bone-in chicken legs, 75 minutes because the bone conducts heat. Other types of meat you would do for 90 minutes. When your timer goes off, turn your heat off and leave your canner alone until it reaches 0. Then remove the weight, carefully unscrew the lid, open away from you. Remove the jar, sit for 12 hours, check to see that they've sealed, and then label and store shelf-stable for up to 3 years. Welcome to Canuary.
I plan to keep these farm fresh eggs right here shelf stable for the next 2 years. The way I'm going to do that is a system called water glassing. And so the first thing you're going to need is farm fresh eggs, and they need to be unwashed. You can't use this with store-bought eggs. The second thing you're going to need is a large glass jar that you're going to put the eggs in. You're also going to need some water. And then finally, and the most important thing you're going to need is pickling lime. I am using Mrs. Wage's pickling lime. Now, when you see that, this does not mean that these are going to be pickled eggs. What this does is this solution in the water creates a protective barrier around the eggs that keeps it from deteriorating, and it keeps them fresh for up to 2 years. And so what you need to do is you need to start placing your eggs in the glass jar. You want to keep them pointy side down as much as possible. I've read that keeps them fresher longer, but it does make it difficult when you're trying to put an abundance of eggs into a jar. And the reason they need to be unwashed is because there's a protective bloom that covers the eggs when the chicken lays it that gets washed off in a commercial egg factory when they prepare it for refrigeration. And when you have farm fresh eggs that sit on the counter, that protective bloom is what keeps them from deteriorating and rotting so fast. And so you have to make sure that you're using unwashed eggs, farm fresh eggs, because that protective bloom kind of interacts with that pickling lime to create that protective barrier. Okay, so now that I've got my jar full of eggs as pointy side down as possible, now it's time to mix the pickling lime in with the water. You have 1 quart of water, and before you get Google out, that is 4 cups. And then you also have 1 ounce of pickling lime, and before you get Google out again, it's about 1/4 cup. This is a good thing to do because you really don't want to be having to go to the store to buy eggs when you have chickens that you're feeding every single day in the winter, because then you're paying for the eggs and you're paying for feed to feed your chickens all winter. So it's good to kind of use that surplus now so that you can have eggs all winter long. And so you might need multiple quarts. And so what you do is you pour that water in until they're about 2 inches over the eggs, because you want the eggs to be completely submerged for this to actually work. So now we're going to go ahead and pour in our pickling lime solution, and it looks like we're going to need another quart. Perfect. So there you have it. You have water glassed eggs. The only thing you need to do is open the lid, pull an egg out when you want to use it. You don't have to really do anything with it. You can use it just like you would a fresh egg, and these are good for up to around 18 months.
Shelf-stable meat. What if I told you that this meat could sit on my shelf for up to 30 years and still be safe to eat? Today we're freeze-drying meatloaf so we can have shelf-stable, ready-made meals. I started by just following my normal meatloaf recipe. I have to toot my own horn. My meatloaf is really, really good. I drained off as much of the grease as I possibly could. And then on my other trays, I'm just going to freeze-dry some frozen vegetables that I had and some green beans. I stuck all of this back in my freezer to pre-freeze overnight, and then I loaded up my freeze dryer once everything was frozen solid. For those of you that are going to ask, I have the medium harvest right, and I am obsessed with it. After 40 hours, everything is done. Now, I know that freeze-dried meat is not the most appetizing looking thing, but once you reconstitute this, it returns to its normal texture and flavor. A common question I get asked is it dry after you reconstitute it? But it's really not. I'm going to be packing these into MRE-style Mylar bags. These bags are great single-serving bags to use for long-term food storage, camping, hiking, or whatever else you want to use them for. I started off trying to use the tongs. It was too hard, so I moved over to my hands. Now I'm going to throw some green beans into each pouch, making it a full meal. The peas and corn I'm just going to stick in a regular Mylar bag. I'm going to pack these up and just add it to my food storage. Now I partially zip these up so I can drop oxygen absorbers into them and then zip them up really quickly the rest of the way. Once you have your oxygen absorbers in them, you want to finish zipping them, and then we are going to heat seal them to ensure they stay sealed shut. This will ensure a long shelf life. Once you have them all packaged up, you want to date them and label them and then stick them in your storage. Would you eat freeze-dried meatloaf?
Serving beef brisket with salt. Cover it up with any type of salt you want and rub it in. Flip it over and get the other side. The salt is going to deter bacteria and mold from growing. It's also going to draw out moisture, and that's what you want. I'm going to be using a hook like this and hanging it up and letting it dry out. The salt is going to continue drawing out moisture and it's going to dissolve. I'm going to add more salt to it in a couple of days. I'm going to be leaving this up here for a couple of weeks to a month. And this can be done completely without refrigeration. It's winter in Minnesota right now, so it's cold, so it's almost like a refrigerator in here. But if you were to do this in a warmer climate, I would suggest having a lot of airflow. So putting a fan next
dry pack potatoes for canning. There are many ways to can potatoes, and most of them involve water or broth. But some people complain of them being mushy, and dry pack canning is the answer. First, wash, peel, and chop your potatoes and drop them into a cold, salted pot of water. Soak them for about 3 hours, replacing the water every hour. Essentially, you just want them to be rinsed until the water runs clear. You have now removed the starch from the potato, which makes for a more pleasant finished product. Then pull out your potatoes and pat them dry as best you can. Fill your quart jars to the tippy top. The biggest mistake people make is underfilling them because they do cook down and shrink while cooking. If you don't really pack them in there, you'll end up with a jar that's half full. This is a good time to tell you that dry pack potatoes is considered rebel canning because it refers to a method of canning potatoes without liquid. So it is not FDA approved. But a scientist once told me the reason this is still safe scientifically is because we add a pat of butter to every jar. That butter, along with the residual water on the rinsed potatoes, is enough liquid to conduct the heat through the potatoes to kill any bacteria, spores, cook, and create that hermetically sealed environment where no bacteria can spoil the food. Make sure to clean the rims of your jar, put on your lids fingertip tight, and pressure can them for 40 minutes. I have canned dry pack potatoes and used them up to 2 years later with no ill results. We've done them in scallop shape and cubed shape and found that we reached for cubed more often because we fried them up for breakfast potatoes or breakfast breakfast scramble, or a simple seasoned potato side dish for dinner. Make sure you research the steps of pressure canning as I did not go over them in this video. Remove the rings before storing. As long as your seal remains strong, these are good for up to 3 years.
The goal is to get things on the shelf. So I went to Costco and I got some of their soups to freeze dry so I could get them on the shelf and have them for emergencies or quick dinners. I got a couple different ones. I did tomato soup and then a taco soup one and a vegetable. And then the last one is like a rice and chicken type soup. I'm freeze drying these. So basically to reconcentrate it, all you have to do is add water to it and it brings it back to its normal state. I really do love canning, but honestly freeze drying is really nice because I feel like one, it takes up less space, and two, it's just way easier to move. Like with the jars, it's so hard because it takes up so much space and it's so heavy. Also, it's just a lot less work. Like a lot of times I can just prep it, put it in the freeze dryer, walk away, do whatever I have to do, and then come back like a couple days later and it's ready, and I just package it up and it's ready to go.
Let's freeze dry some cabbage to make it shelf stable for up to 25 years. I found these massive heads of cabbage on sale for 49 cents a pound, so I grabbed a bunch of them. Not only does cabbage have a ton of health benefits, but it tastes so good and my family loves it. My grandpa's cabbage soup recipe has become a staple in our house, so we'll definitely use this. Once I get all of this shredded up, I'm going to evenly spread it out on my freeze dryer trays. You can really pile it on there, you just want to make sure that the food is not touching the tray above it once you put it in your machine. I do have 2 medium freeze dryers and I shredded enough to load both of my machines. I want to say it was 3 large heads of cabbage. Once you load your freeze dryer, you literally just press a button and the machine does all of the work for you. After around 27 hours, both machines were finished. Now I'm going to package all of this up into glass jars. You can really crush this down into the jar to save space, but that will essentially turn it into a powder, which I didn't want. I want it to hold its form of the shreds. Now I'm adding an oxygen absorber to each jar, and then I'm going to use my Food Saver vacuum sealer to vacuum seal the jar shut. This will keep the cabbage from going soft and help to ensure that 25-year shelf life. Now I'll label these jars and stick them in my pantry, and they will be good to use for years to come.
Well, that is very, very interesting. And I think it's a good idea to stay prepared. Like I did a video about like staying preparing. And I think it's a good idea to learn something like this so that way, when you lost your job and you can't afford groceries, because right now groceries are very, very expensive and they keep laying people off. And if food shortage happens in the stores, or if food prices are so high that people cannot afford, at least you have something in your pantry to eat, to last you a couple of days or month. I will try it. I will look into, I don't know about the chicken. I don't know if I can do it, but it doesn't look so appealing when I'm looking at the chicken, but I'm pretty sure it is amazing because it was cooked, it was boiled with its own juices and spices, especially if you put like some really good spices in there. I'm pretty sure it's going to be really, really delicious. But it doesn't look appealing, but I think once you do cook it, it's going to taste amazing because people are just trying to build their own food security, so that way they don't have to fight over food. They don't have to like go crazy over it. They already have food stored in their basements, in their pantries. You don't even have to put these in the freezer. I mean, the fridge or the freezer, if you don't have the space, you can just put them on the shelf and just let them sit there, or put them in your basement shelf. Just build a shelf in your basement and just keep them in there. If you don't have space in your pantry, I don't think they're trying to insert fear in people, or I think this is not about panic. I think it's about like staying prepared and saving money, and if you look at the way, just look at the way prices are right now. Look at the grocery stores, the way prices are right now. The stuff that we are complaining that is expensive now, give it the way 4 months, 6 months from now, we are probably not going to be able to afford it. If these things just keep happening in, whatever it is that is happening in the Middle East keep happening, we are probably not going to be able to afford it. So it's actually a good idea for us to stock up on food right now. So I think this is just a good skill to learn or to know how to can. And yeah, well, just let me know what you think about this video down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.